It's a new day in America, every 4 years. Welcome to WatchMojo's Top 5 Facts. In today's installment, we're counting down the top 5 presidential inauguration facts.
But knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
The United States presidential inauguration is the ceremony that officially kicks off an American president's term in office. While some have criticized the event as being overly ceremonial and somewhat unnecessary, it has a long history involving a number of interesting traditions that are certainly worth knowing.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Number 5. It used to happen March 4th. Up until 1937, the president didn't take power until 4 months after election night. At the time, it was a question of technological limitations. Vote counting, travel, and coordination were significantly more time-intensive back then. With the ratification of the 20th Amendment, however, this period of transition was drastically shortened. But what purpose does it serve now, apart from making the sitting president a lame duck? Well, most importantly, it allows the new administration to hire some 4,000 staff and train them before taking on the massive responsibility of running the White House and country. The president's transition team works to prepare each major agency or federal department and much more.
And he will probably bring in some Republican establishment figures, perhaps in that national security team, George.
It's not always a smooth transition. Hoover to Roosevelt and Clinton to Bush were notoriously problematic, but for the most part, it's a time of cooperation.
You always want to be underestimated by your adversaries. He consistently benefited by being underestimated.
Number 4. One man in history has been on both sides of the swearing-in process. William Howard Taft was the 27th President of the United States and was inaugurated on March 4, 1909. He lost his re-election campaign to Woodrow Wilson in 1912, after which he returned to the legal profession as a professor. Given that he had appointed numerous federal judges, it was considered a conflict of interest for him to practice as an actual lawyer. During this time, he remained very involved in politics in various ways. With the return of the Republican Party to power under Warren G. Harding, Taft was named Chief Justice on July 11, 1921. He officially became the only person in history to hold the position of both President and Chief Justice. In this position, he swore in both Presidents Coolidge and Hoover at their respective inaugurations. Number 3. It happens outdoors because of a historic fight. On April 30th, 1789, George Washington became the first president of the United States, but his inauguration was the last one to be held outdoors, until 1817. Washington's second inauguration was performed in Senate chambers, which became tradition. When James Monroe was inaugurated, however, the Capitol building was still under reconstruction following the fire of 1814. It was suggested that he take the oath in the temporary old brick Capitol, which at the time housed Congress, sparking controversy and argument. Allegedly, no one could agree as to whether it was more appropriate for him to use the Senate or the House chambers. According to legend, Monroe grew sick of the debate and moved the affair outside. Since that day, weather permitting, all inaugurations have been an outdoor affair.
What in the world was he trying to prove by not wearing an overcoat?
Number 2. It's got a bit of a drunk history to it. Nowadays, the vice president is sworn in just before the president.
I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
But up until 1937, they had their very own ceremony and inaugural speech. In 1865, VP Andrew Johnson brought extreme dishonor to his office by doing the whole thing wasted. Allegedly suffering from ill health, other reports state that he was hungover and took a couple of swigs of whiskey for a little hair of the dog cure.
Hair of the dog that bit me.
His 7-minute speech ran 10 minutes long and only ended when someone intervened. During the oath, he drunkenly kissed the Bible. Then there was the ever-controversial President Jackson, who essentially threw a rager at the White House following his inauguration.
The after party starts in 15 minutes.
Things quickly got out of hand, and he slipped out a window or side door. The destructive festivities only ended when the crowd was lured out onto the front lawn with more booze. Thousands of dollars worth of damage was done to the White House. Number 1. Things don't always go as planned.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
As we were saying, inaugurations have a tendency of going off the rails. JFK's ceremony was a veritable train wreck. An overnight snowstorm almost ended it before it started, and an electrical failure resulted in a smoking lectern, and poet Robert Frost struggled to recite Kennedy's requested poem, and then accidentally called him Mr. John Finley. At least JFK's inaugural address ended smoothly, which can't be said for all presidents.
I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it.
President Harrison gave an insanely long-winded 2-hour address at his cold, rainy inauguration and died of pneumonia just 1 month later. Obama actually needed a do-over after a jumbled oath swearing-in process.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
Dead birds, severe diarrhea, and the worst coat check system in history, the presidential inauguration has seen it all over the years.
Let us brave once more the icy currents and endure what storms may come.
So, just how familiar were you with the inauguration before today? Will you be tuning in to watch the ceremony when the next president takes office? For more stately top 10s and smoking lectern top 5s, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com.
On this day, we come to proclaim an end to the petty grievances and false promises, the recriminations and worn-out dogmas that for far too long have strangled our politics.